Hello everybody, welcome back to another video, and in today's video I am going to be going over a brand new set of patch notes that were just showing off a few hours ago. And these patch notes, I believe they're still a work in progress, so they could change, but I scrolled through a few of these patch notes, and all I gotta say is some of these changes are insanely crazy. And also, the last set of patch notes we had were like on October, I believe, with the 1.4.6 update. So it's been like 5-6 months since the last set of patch notes. But anyways, enough of me yapping. Let's get into the actual patch notes. So starting off, the zip lines are getting a speed boost, and this is for using the zipper, which is now 50% quicker when using it on a zip line, which this is going to be insanely good, because I'm not going to lie, guys, on my world, I have a zip line that goes right past the wasp that are near the hedge area, and it is extremely annoying trying to get away from them. So this will help me a lot. The gamepad movement, so walking slower than sprint speed no longer drains stamina, and this took me a while to figure out what it meant, but pretty much there are some times to where you will pretty much be walking, but the game will count it as sprinting for some odd reason. So you will gradually lose stamina even though you're technically walking, but the game still thinks it's sprinting. So I'm really glad they changed that, because that was super annoying trying to go around my base and just lose all of my stamina, despite the fact I was pretty much in one spot. They are also buffing the lure traps. So the lure traps now attract every single land creature, excluding the stink bugs, the green shield bugs, and all the underwater creatures. So that is honestly a really good change. I don't know if lure traps are going to be used a lot more, because they're still pretty niche in my opinion. But who knows? Maybe after this update, the lure traps will get some love. For a pet update, so the baby pet ants will have 50% more health and armor, which is always good, especially for those of you who play on WoW and hate when your baby ant dies in the middle of a boss fight. With also the aphids, they're also getting a buff. So they actually decrease the amount of stamina drain you get while sprinting. It used to be 20%, now it is 30%. And aphids now also increase the player's movement speed by 15%. So now, with this buff, you can theoretically be... So there's now going to be a brand new best speed build for going around the map. And the Weevil buff, well, the Weevil pet I meant, is now also getting another buff. So, the Weevil is reduced. So the thirst drain is getting reduced by 50%. It was originally 20%. And the hunger drain is also getting reduced by 50%, which, I'm not going to lie, the Weevil pet's probably still going to be pretty mediocre after this, because eventually there's a point in New Game Plus where you physically just won't lose any hunger or thirst. So maybe in the future, if they do another patch to Grounded, they could buff the Weevils even more, but we just have to see. And the Mantis, and this is a huge change right here. So the Mantis, you can now perfectly block the Mantis's scream. This was something that was extremely annoying, because the Mantis could just always apply like the poison, well, the venom infusion and also the ice staff infusion to you, and it was super annoying because you would just always take damage, especially in the infused mantis fight where she summons like 3 other small mantises. So this is a really good change. I am so glad they made it to where you could parry the mantis's scream. And here's one of the bigger changes, and some of you might have already seen it from my poor scrolling. Okay, I'm sorry. But you are now able to upgrade armor to level 15. Yes, that is correct. After almost a full year of this feature being highly requested, you are now able to upgrade armor past level 15. This is something I'm really excited about because now the higher new game pluses are actually going to be like more survivable because you won't just get immediately one shot by the boss attacking you once and having like 30 infusions pop out of them. So this is going to be absolutely amazing. I am so thankful that they did this change. Not to mention, your armor would get obliterated after like almost a singular fight with a boss. But anyway, so this is also another thing I really like. So the infusion attack damage significantly reduced against buildings, helping in Java-matic and base defense battles. This is going to be so good for a number of reasons. For those of you who know, the C Dinky short to where his base got raided by the infused wasp and it just got totally eviscerated off the map. It's still like that. It's still like that right now, but hopefully with this patch, the infused wasp raids will actually be manageable instead of having to reload your save or having to force the raid in another spot on the map. Another option I like, this is going to be so good in the future for content creation, is you can now adjust the remixed level in survival mode in the custom game settings. So with this, you need to go to game options and then to the remix level, and you can change it to whatever remix level you want to, I believe. And it goes up to 10. So that's going to be really good because before you would physically have to go into a custom game and grind out the entire story over and over again in order to get to the new game plus that you wanted to get. Now this is no longer the case. You can immediately just swap to that new game plus without having to do that tedious grind. And these are some scaling updates that are going to be really cool in my opinion. So with this new scaling update, the infused creatures with the base reward of 3,000 raw science will get increased by 10% every single remix level. So if you do decide to go to New Game Plus 10, you will have a max total. Okay, no. So by New Game Plus 10, you will gain an additional 6,000 raw science in total. It's going to be 6,000 raw science in total. Okay, I'm sorry. I had to do the math real quick. But here's the thing that's really going to catch me. So the boss reward. So now you will actually gain 30,000 raw science for killing a boss in New Game Plus instead of the normal 3K, with it increasing instead of 10% by 20% per remix level. So by New Game Plus 10, you will gain a total of 90,000 raw science per boss kill. That is right, 90,000 raw science per boss kill. That is actually insane. So you can pretty much buy the telepody in one boss. But anyways, let's get on with the rest of these patch notes. So for the boss drops, bosses have a 30% chance to drop an extra infused ooze at New Game Plus 4 and higher, this is going to be really good, especially because, of the armor upgrades we're going to be able to do now. And also, they increased the Burgle Quest and Raw Science pickups by 200% for each remixed playthrough. So, let's just say, for example, it was like 1,000 Raw Science that you picked up. It would now be 3,000 Raw Science instead of that 1,000. Or if it was like 500 Raw Science, it would be, I believe, 1,500. So, this is going to be a really good change. With this patch, you're going to be gaining Raw Science extremely quickly now. But anyways, on to the next change. For the creature damage scaling, they're actually going to go with a new scaling system. So instead of the damage going up by 20% per, I think this is per New Game Plus level, yeah, it now goes up by 20, then 45%, and then eventually 35, and I believe the next one will be 45, then 55. So it's going up by, at first, like around 25%, and then it's just going to add an extra 10% per remix level. But who knows? This could be even a higher number, but this is what I'm getting. And here's another big thing. And as you can see, these mutation changes are wild. So the Barbarian mutation, its perfect block window is increased by 60%. So before, I actually never knew this. You actually had a very, very, very small window in order to parry with Barbarian, to where it was essentially non-existent. But now, you can actually, that window is a lot bigger, so Barbarian is a lot more viable to use on more bosses, which I am so thankful, because Barbarian is such an interesting perk concept to me, because it deals, well, first of all, it makes your clubs do an insane amount of damage. It pretty much gives you a passive healing effect similar to the bandages. But with the perfect block debuff, like with this change, Barbarian should be a lot more viable. And like, I can only imagine like the amount of builds. Like, can you imagine a like Club of the Mother Demon build with this and the next mutation change that's going on right now? So with the Apex Predator mutation, it now works with every single infused weapon. And this should include boss weapons, which, for those of you who know, originally boss weapons were bugged to where it was only the Blaster of the Moldy Matriarch that would get the Apex Predator effect. And if you tried to use it for the club, the scythe, or the bow, it just wouldn't do anything. It wouldn't proc their effects or nothing. So with this change, I can only imagine the builds that are about to become. Like I said, can you imagine the infused Club of the Mother Demon with Barbarian and the Apex Predator mutation, or a scythe with Final Fury and the Apex Predator mutation? Or the Bard's Bow, like with crit, with like summon crit or summon damage with the Apex Predator mutation? Like, there are going to be an insane amount of infused builds now, since this mutation actually works properly. And here's more of the more niche stuff. I mean, if you like playground mode, then stick around to read this. So Story Crest can now be enabled in playground mode. The backyard bosses can now be summoned at their arenas in playground mode, which before you couldn't do that. It physically just would not let you summon them at all. I don't even think it would let you like put the prompt up. Like, I mean, it would even give you the prompt to summon them. So that's also really cool. Web sacks now spawn spiderlings and black widowlings. And not only that, but this is really interesting in my opinion, you can now customize creatures and bosses by their name, their damage, their movement speed, their health scaling, and what infusions they have. So you can make some insane final bosses for your playground maps, or just bosses in general. I would love to see like an Elden Ring or Dark Souls type map for playground mode being added. And for the weapons and tools, they also have the same thing, this time with the bonus effects for the sleek, bulky, or whatever you can modify. So you can also have some insane weapons in a playground mode. And not only that, but similar to earlier, you can also choose which remix level you start out in playground mode. And they also added a few new music tracks to the music player in playground mode. These are all the tracks right here if you want to read them. But now on to the bug fixes. So, salty weapons, they now properly turn underwater creatures into jerky. I actually never knew that didn't work. So that's honestly pretty cool now that you can turn a tadpole into tadpole jerky. Now, here's one that kind of surprised me. So the Cupid arrow was actually bugged. Originally, many people thought that it was intentional, that it made you invincible, but apparently it was bugged. So as it states here, it no longer makes the player invincible, and if a creature is under the Cupid's arrow effect and is hit by the player, the effect disappears and the creature becomes hostile again. So you can no longer cheese creatures in the yard by shooting them with a Cupid arrow and then being invincible and then just absolutely annihilating them. You know, actually, the Cupid arrow actually works as intended now. And I believe this is a typo here, but having the ambassador trinket, I'm assuming they meant to say a mutation with a pet no longer makes the ant see you in anthills. I'm assuming what it means is if you had that with a pet, for some odd reason, the soldier ants and all that would still aggro on you despite the fact you had ambassador equipped. So the gnat pet fix. So gnats won't stop following you if you bump into them. That's kind of interesting because I can only imagine if you accidentally bumped into your like pet gnat at like the garbage heap and it just stood there the entire time while you forgot about it. So that's gonna be that's a really cool bug fix that they did. So Burgle quests. Some quests that wouldn't complete properly are now fixed, and this includes the 10th quest, which is called Mixologist, which now correctly asks for normal smoothies. I didn't even know that this was bugged. I think I did this normally, but it's been so long since I've actually done all the Burgle quests, so I don't even know. Playground building fix. So copying linked buildings now correctly inherits all links when changing the door variant. I don't really build stuff in Playground, so I have no clue what that means. Antenna in field stations no longer duplicate when re-entering design mode. The Ant Queen gear summons now correctly aggro enemies on spawn. That's pretty cool. And for the crashes, so apparently reloading ladders and using the Shinobi Sneeze would crash your game. I don't really know anyone who uses the Shinobi Sneeze, but for those top 1%ers who use the Shinobi Sneeze, I hope you're glad now that this bug got fixed. And some world issues. Players will no longer fall out of the world at the woodpile entrance. I did not experience this bug before. This is really interesting. And they have fixed some spawns at the fire ant hill with some UI localization fixes. So in total, these patch notes are really, really cool. Especially because this makes me wonder. Now, I doubt they're going to do another big update for the game, but since it's been this long and they're now just starting to update Grounded again, especially after Avowed, I wonder how many more patch notes they're going to do. Because I'm not going to lie, finally being able to upgrade your armor past level 9 is so good. I'm in love with that change, as well as the mutation changes if I can find them. Yeah, right here. But I mean, I don't really have nothing else to say. So that is going to be all for today's video. If y'all enjoyed this video, please make sure to like and subscribe, as it will help out a ton. And I will see you all in the next video. Peace.